They threw my daughter away like garbage, left her on a park bench with my granddaughter and 3 suitcases. Her father-in-law fired her. Her husband kicked her out. They said our bloodline wasn't good enough for their empire. I told her to get in the car. They had no idea that empire was mine, and I was about to take it back. Welcome to today's story, everyone. Before we begin, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling us where you're tuning in from. Quick reminder, this narrative contains dramatized elements for storytelling and educational value. While names and specific details may be fictional, the core lessons about recognizing abuse are absolutely real. The late afternoon sun bled gold across Biscayne Bay when I saw them. My daughter, my granddaughter, 3 suitcases, a park bench. Pull over, I told my head of security. He didn't ask why. The black sedan slid to the curb and I was out before the engine stopped. My daughter sat with her shoulders curved inward like she was trying to disappear. My granddaughter, 4 years old, in a pink sundress pressed against her mother's side, one small hand clutching a stuffed rabbit. The kind of toy you grab when someone rushes you out the door. When there's no time to think. My heels clicked on the concrete path. My daughter looked up. Her eyes were swollen, red-rimmed. She'd been crying for hours. "Mom," she whispered. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I walked to that bench the way I've walked into every boardroom for the past 25 years. Steady, deliberate, in control. But inside, something was cracking. What happened? My voice was calm. Too calm. Her breath hitched. My father-in-law fired me this morning. Said there were discrepancies in my reports, things I never wrote. Her hands shook. My husband came home 2 hours ago. He said he wanted me gone. He said her voice broke. He said our bloodline wasn't worthy of his family name. The words landed like a slap. My granddaughter looked up at me with those wide brown eyes. "Grandma, when are we going home?" My daughter couldn't answer. She just pulled the little girl closer and stared at the ground. I crouched down, smoothed a curl behind my granddaughter's ear. "Soon, sweetheart, real soon." Then I stood, looked at my daughter. "Get in the car." "Mom, I don't get in the car." I kept my voice gentle but firm. My security guard already had the trunk open. He loaded the suitcases without a word, then held the back door as they climbed in. My granddaughter clutched her rabbit. My daughter stared out the window like she wasn't sure where she was anymore. I slid into the passenger seat. "Home." He nodded. He knew the address. My house in Coconut Grove. The place I'd built from nothing after my daughter's father walked out on us 28 years ago. The place no one could take from me. The drive took 17 minutes. My daughter didn't speak. My granddaughter fell asleep against her mother's shoulder, exhausted from crying. When we pulled up to the gate, I turned back. "You're safe now." My daughter nodded, but her eyes said she didn't believe me. Inside, I showed them to the guest suite on the 2nd floor. My daughter ran a bath. My granddaughter was already asleep before her head hit the pillow, still holding that rabbit. I waited until the bathroom door closed until I heard the water running. Then I walked downstairs to my office and made a call. He answered on the first ring. "I need a full audit of that cargo company." I said, "Every contract, every transaction, every piece of paper my son-in-law's father has touched in the past 4 years." Understood. When do you need it? 48 hours. There was a pause. Then consider it done. I hung up, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, stood at the window overlooking the bay, watching the lights flicker on across the water. My son-in-law's father thought he could throw my daughter away like trash. He thought I wouldn't notice. He thought wrong. My daughter didn't know it yet. My son-in-law didn't know it. His father certainly didn't know it. But that cargo company he'd been running for the past 6 years. The one he thought he owned. The one he used to fire my daughter and destroy her career. I'd owned it all along. Through shell companies, through trusts, through layers so deep that even the best forensic accountants would need months to untangle them. I'd let him play boss. Let him think he'd built something. Let him parade around Miami like he was somebody because I needed to see what kind of man my daughter had married, what kind of family she joined, what kind of people would raise my granddaughter. Turns out I'd seen enough. My son-in-law's father thought he could use my company to humiliate my daughter. Thought he could destroy her reputation. Thought he could throw her out like garbage and face no consequences. He was about to learn something about consequences. What my security guard would find in the next 48 hours wouldn't just expose fraud. It would expose a pattern, a system, a carefully constructed empire of lies built on my foundation. And I was going to burn it down. I took a sip of bourbon, watched the sun set over the water. My daughter was upstairs, probably crying in the bathtub. My granddaughter was asleep clutching a stuffed rabbit in a strange bed, but they were safe. They were home, and the men who'd put them on that park bench. They had no idea what was coming. The house was quiet. Upstairs, Sophia slept in the guest suite. Ruby curled beside her, that stuffed rabbit tucked under one small arm. But I sat in my office, the desk lamp casting long shadows across the mahogany, and I let myself remember 4 years ago, April 2021. Sophia had come to me with that smile, the kind that lit up a room and told me she was engaged. Adrian Westbrook, charming, handsome, Harvard Business School. His father ran a logistics company in partnership with mine, or so he thought. I'd smiled, hugged her, said all the right things. Then I made a call. It took Marcus 3 days to build the file on Harrison Westbrook. 3 days to confirm what my instincts already knew. The man was a predator. He'd married into money twice before. Both wives ended up broke. Both families ended up silent. Old money built on stolen foundations. That's when I made my move. I'd owned Coastal Cargo Solutions since 2019, buried under 3 shell companies and a trust held by Apex Logistics International. Harrison thought he ran the company. Thought he built something with his own 2 hands. He had no idea I held every card. So, I offered Sophia a position. Director of Operations at Coastal Cargo. She'd been so proud. Thought she'd earned it on her own merit. She had, but I'd also been watching, testing her, seeing if she had what it took to survive in that world, seeing if if Harrison would show their true faces when they thought no one was looking. Turns out they did. I leaned back in my chair. The clock on the wall read 2:15 in the morning. I should have been exhausted, but my mind was sharp, clear. 4 years. I'd given them 4 years to prove me wrong. They'd proven me right instead. The knock came at 7:30. I'd showered, changed into a charcoal suit, made coffee in the kitchen while Sophia and Ruby still slept. Marcus let himself in through the side entrance, the one he'd used 100 times before, and crossed to my office without a word. He carried a grey folder. I didn't stand, just gestured to the chair across from me. "Tell me." Marcus opened the file, slid a police report across the desk. "Harrison filed this yesterday afternoon, 3:45 p.m. Miami-Dade County Sheriff's Office." I scanned the document. My hands didn't shake. They never did. Complainant Harrison Westbrook accused Sophia Blackwell. Allegation: grand theft $320,000. The list went on. Antique coins, sterling silver, jewelry, items Harrison claimed belonged to the Westbrook family estate. Items Sophia had allegedly stolen over the course of her marriage. Lies, every single word. "This is a felony charge," Marcus said quietly. "If it sticks, she's looking at 5 years minimum." I set the report down, looked at him. "It won't stick, Vivian. It won't." My voice was still because Harrison doesn't know who he's dealing with. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "What do you need?" I stood, walked to the window. The sun was rising over the bay, painting the water in shades of orange and gold. Sophia was upstairs, still believing the world was something it wasn't. Ruby was 4 years old and homeless, and Harrison Westbrook thought he could destroy my family with a piece of paper. I turned back to Marcus. "Pull every overdraft line. Coastal Cargo has every credit facility, every loan." When today his eyebrows rose slightly, "That'll freeze their operations within 48 hours. "Good." I picked up my phone. "Harrison wants to play games with the law. Let's see how he plays when he can't make payroll." I dialed the number for my lead counsel, Christine Barrett. She answered on the second ring. "Christine, it's Vivian. I need you at my house in an hour. We have work to do." What Harrison didn't understand, what he'd never understood, was that I didn't just own Coastal Cargo. I owned his entire world, and I was about to take it apart piece by piece. The morning light over Biscayne Bay was sharp and gold when I made the call from my office on the 42nd floor of Four Seasons Tower. I didn't sit behind my desk. I stood at the window watching the city wake and dialed Harold Bridges. Harold had been managing commercial accounts at Coastal Trust for 15 years. We'd done business since back when I was running routes myself, when one late payment could have buried me. He owed me nothing, but he remembered. And that kind of loyalty is priceless in this city. "Harold," I said when he picked up, "I need you to freeze the Coastal Cargo Solutions overdraft facility effective immediately." There was a pause. Then, "Mrs. Blackwell, that's $1.5 million in active credit. I'm aware the payroll is due Friday. Vendor payments are scheduled. If I pull that line, then it gets pulled." I said internal security review. No timeline for resolution. Another pause. Harold wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what I was doing. "Understood," he said quietly. "I'll have it done within the hour." I hung up and pulled up the live feed on my tablet. Marcus had installed cameras in the Coastal Cargo offices 6 months ago, hidden in the smoke detectors, the exit signs, the framed motivational posters my son-in-law's father loved so much. The man thought he was running an empire. He had no idea he was living in a glass house. At 9:45, the first payment rejection hit. I watched him through the camera. He was at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, face going red. The vendor on the other end was probably yelling. 3 more calls came in within 10 minutes. Payroll, lease, insurance. At 10:15, he called Harold. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. I saw his face go pale. Saw him stand up, pace, slam his hand on the desk. Harold was delivering the script I'd given him. System error. No estimated resolution time. We'll keep you updated. By 11, the man was sweating through his shirt. I poured myself a cup of coffee and waited. At 3:27 that afternoon, my daughter's phone rang. We were in the guest suite at my house in Coconut Grove. My granddaughter was napping upstairs. Christine Barrett sat beside me, legal pad open, pen ready. My daughter stared at the screen. It's him, she whispered. Answer it, I said. Put it on speaker, she did. Sophia. His voice was tight. Controlled. The kind of control that comes right before someone snaps. What do you want? My daughter's voice was steadier than I expected. I want to talk about Ruby. Christine's pen moved across the page. I stayed silent. My father's willing to drop the charges, he continued. All of them. The theft, the embezzlement, everything. I didn't steal anything. I know that. His voice softened. The shift was so smooth. It made my skin crawl. But you know how he is. He's angry. He feels betrayed. If you just sign a statement, say you made a mistake. Acknowledge you took the money. I didn't. Sophia. The softness was gone. Now sign the paper and this goes away. You get your life back. Ruby gets her mother back. If you don't, he paused. Let the silence hang. Ruby's going to need stability. A real home, not a guest room at your mother's place. Not with people like your mother. My daughter's hand went to her mouth. Christine's pen stopped. I didn't move. Are you threatening me? My daughter whispered. I'm offering you a way out, he said. Sign the paper or Ruby calls someone else mom. The line went dead. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Christine looked up from her legal pad and her eyes were bright. Extortion, she said. Custodial coercion, racial harassment, and we have it on tape. I looked at my daughter. She was shaking. This is the 3rd time he's threatened you. Christine continued, 3rd documented instance. The court will see a pattern. A predator and Mrs. Blackwell. She turned to me. With this recording, with the timeline, with the financial evidence Marcus is gathering, we don't just win custody, we destroy him. I stood and walked to the window. The bay was calm. The sun was setting. Somewhere across the city, my son-in-law thought he'd won. He had no idea I owned the cage he was standing in. And I was about to lock the door. The Perez Art Museum sat like a jewel on Biscayne Bay, all glass and light and modern angles. I donated enough over the years to have my name on a plaque near the entrance. Tonight, I wore a simple beige dress and stood in the shadows near the sculpture garden entrance. Invisible. That was the trick. People expected power to announce itself. Designer gowns, diamond necklaces, a commanding presence in the center of the room. I'd learned long ago that real power moved quietly. The pre-auction cocktail reception buzzed with Miami's elite collectors. Philanthropists, business owners who thought they ran this city. Harrison Westbrook stood near the bar, sweat beating at his temples despite the air conditioning. He was smiling too wide, shaking hands, laughing too loud. I watched him work the room, overheard fragments of conversation, expansion plans, new routes to the Gulf, investing heavily, all lies. The man's credit was frozen. His payroll was bouncing. But here he was performing for an audience that had no idea his empire was crumbling. At 8:45, he checked his watch, glanced toward the back hallway, then excused himself and headed for the service exit. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. The service corridor was dimly lit, staff only, leading to the loading docks where trucks delivered artwork for exhibitions. Harrison pushed through the metal door and stepped into the alley behind the museum. I stayed in the doorway, pulled out my phone, started recording. A man emerged from the shadows, tall, thin, wearing a leather jacket despite the Miami heat. Arnold Fletcher. I'd seen his file. Marcus had flagged him 3 months ago. Money laundering. Ties to organized crime networks moving cash through South Florida. Harrison's business partner in the shadows. They stood under a flickering street light. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see their lips. Years of reading contracts across boardroom tables had taught me to catch what people thought they were hiding. Fletcher spoke first. I focused on his mouth. 12 trucks. Harrison nodded. 6 a.m. tomorrow. Another nod. Cash only, no paper trail. Harrison wiped his forehead, said something I couldn't catch. Fletcher clapped him on the shoulder, then walked away into the darkness. I took 17 photos, clear shots of both faces, the handshake, the exchange. Harrison stood alone for a moment, staring at his phone. Then he turned back toward the building. I was already gone. Out through the loading dock into my car 3 blocks away. By 11 p.m. I was in my office at home. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 2 years. Chief Daniel Hawkins, Miami-Dade Police Department. We'd served together on a community safety task force after the last hurricane. He was honest. Rare in this city. Chief Hawkins. Daniel. It's Vivian Blackwell. Mrs. Blackwell. It's late. Everything all right? I have information about a transaction happening tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Miami Port, Warehouse 7, 12 trucks. Suspected money laundering operation tied to cargo theft. There was a pause. How reliable is this intelligence? Extremely. I have photographic evidence and a recording. I'll send it to your secure line tonight. What's your involvement in this? I looked out at the dark water beyond my window. Personal interest. The man coordinating the sale has harmed my family. Another pause. Daniel was careful, but he was also a good cop. I'll need 24 hours to coordinate task force units. Federal involvement if this is what you say it is. You have 12 hours. It happens at dawn. Vivian. 12 hours. Daniel. Unless you want Fletcher and Westbrook gone by sunrise. Silence. Then I'll make it happen. Thank you. I hung up, sent the photos and audio file. Then I poured myself a glass of water and stood at the window. Harrison thought he could steal from me, frame my daughter, threaten my granddaughter. He thought he was untouchable because he wore expensive suits and smiled at charity galas. He was wrong. At dawn on Saturday, Harrison Westbrook would learn that no one could outrun consequences, not even him. I sat in my home office at 6:15 Saturday morning, laptop open on the desk. My head of security had left an hour earlier, body camera clipped to his vest. The police chief had granted him observer status, professional courtesy. The live feed came through encrypted, grainy, but clear enough. The port, Warehouse 7. 8 patrol units positioned in a perimeter. 2 unmarked vans. A SWAT team in tactical gear near the entrance. The camera showed the view from behind the command vehicle waiting. At 6:23, headlights appeared. A black luxury sedan. My son-in-law's father's car. He parked near the warehouse entrance. Got out, straightened his jacket, walked inside like he owned the world. 3 minutes later, another vehicle, a grey pickup truck. The money launderer climbed out carrying a briefcase. I leaned forward. The camera shifted as my security guard moved closer. Through the partially open bay door, I could see them shaking hands. The money launderer set the briefcase on a wooden crate. Opened it. Cash. Stacks of $100 bills. My son-in-law's father nodded, gestured toward the back of the warehouse where 12 trucks sat in neat rows. The police chief's voice crackled through the feed. All units, move in. Everything happened fast. Officers poured through every entrance. Flashlights, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands. Police hands up. Get on the ground. My son-in-law's father froze. His face went white. The money launderer dropped the briefcase and ran straight into 2 officers who tackled him to the concrete. My son-in-law's father raised his hand slowly, already talking, demanding, threatening, shouting about lawyers and important people he knew. An officer spun him around, cuffed his wrists behind his back. Read him his rights. You have the right to remain silent. But he kept talking, kept demanding. The officer didn't respond. Just walked him toward a patrol car. The camera caught it all. The briefcase full of cash, the trucks with fake registration plates, the money launderer with blood on his face, my son-in-law's father in handcuffs still shouting about lawsuits. By 7:00 a.m., the press cameras had arrived. I watched him get photographed for his booking, watched them load him into the back of a cruiser, watched the warehouse fill with federal agents in windbreakers marked DEA and FBI. Then I closed the laptop, poured myself coffee, stood at the window watching the sun rise over the bay. My son-in-law's father.